very excited about this opportunity that we have here today to begin discussing our how we go about electing the president and how our current implementation system influences and impacts our democracy, and how changing that system to a national popular vote model, what that would mean both for New Mexico and for the nation. And as a political scientist, I'm really deeply concerned, just generally, because this is how we look at the world, with how changing institutions, how changing the rules affects the behavior of citizens and voters and candidates and all of the people in the system. That's how, this is when I get to knock economics. So economists, on the other hand, they sort of have a paradigm where they see people as a rational actor and they go from there, whereas political scientists really think that rules shape people's behavior, and so we think institutions and rules really matter. So does Thomas Jefferson at some level. He said, I'm not an advocate of frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and constitutions must go in hand with the progress of the human mind as that becomes more developed, more enlightened, as new discoveries are made, new truths discovered, and manners and opinions change. With the changing circumstances, institutions must advance also to keep pace with the times. And that's what we're considering here, and there's actually, what's going on sort of nationally is that there's a national popular vote initiative that has gotten almost to the 50% mark, and we'll talk about that more, so I don't want to go into a lot of details there. So we're at this point where this is a potentially important issue. It's particularly important to New Mexico because we have been most recently an active player in this process. So the difference between the Electoral College, of course, as it is now done in the National Popular Vote model, is that the National Popular Vote model would guarantee that the election would go to the winner of the National Popular Vote, whereas now that's not necessarily the case. Most recently in 2000, we know that Bush actually lost the popular vote and Gore won it. That happened in 1876, 1888, and 1824, and there are lots of elections where that's come really close to happen. In fact, in 2004, if 40,000 votes had changed hands in Ohio, it would have been reversed and Kerry would have won, and Bush would have lost, and Kerry would not have won the popular vote. So we were just very, very close in one state from it happening, back to back. And we've had a lot of very close elections lately, and so this is an important time to consider this issue and what that means, particularly for us as New Mexicans, but also as a nation. How should we think about this question and this problem? So today we're going to really do background. There are 3 meetings. The first meeting is focused on exploring the Electoral College, the current implementation, how it's done. It's, for the most part, it's pretty invisible. Most people know extremely little about it or its origins. We want to take a close look at what the Constitution says. We want to introduce the alternative frameworks for this group to question, and I want us as a group to think about a framework from which we can examine the current implementation system and the National Popular Vote model. And this is also a particularly important issue now in New Mexico because first in 2009, NPV, the National Popular Vote, was passed in the House. It did not make it through the Senate. But in 2011, the New Mexico State House passed Memorial 56, and that was sponsored by Representative Garcia, who's chair of House Voters and Elections Committee. And that calls on the Secretary of State to study and compare the current Electoral College system to the National Popular Vote system. And results of that study have to be presented to the legislature at an interim committee in, I think, November of 2011, according to Memorial. So before we begin, I'd like everyone, at least at the table, to introduce themselves, the people who are on the citizen panel, so that we can know each other. And I'd like it to be informal if that's acceptable, because that's our tradition in New Mexico too. So if we can use first names and everyone feels comfortable with that, I certainly do. I want to tell you who's also involved in this, who's going to speak today, which is Jim Knoll. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jim Knoll. I'm an attorney here in New Mexico. I've been involved in election law work for a number of years, going back to '98, I guess, when I was out here in New Mexico. Actually, I started out in election work when I was 9 years old in 1972, McGovern Nixon, going door to door, getting out the vote. And so I've been involved in it and been interested in sort of politics generally for a very long time. I've worked with Lonna on a couple of efforts that she's done before, some of the 2006 election system survey, and then some other things as well. So I'm looking forward to presenting. I think I'm here to talk about the legal stuff later on, so we'll get to that then. So nice, I'm glad all you guys made it. Thanks.
And we also have Kim Proctor.
Sure. I'm a fourth-year PhD student at UNM, and my research is focused on how institutions can address issues of inequality. So this fits pretty well with that. And also this is really interesting for me because I'm from Maryland, which is a one-party state, so elections look very different in Maryland than they do in New Mexico. So it was really interesting for me to move here because I was like, my vote counts, this is so exciting. So it makes this project very interesting to me.
And if you could just sign in and then if you want that. And we'll start over here.
I'm Lynn Ellen, the Doñana County.
I'm not on the committee. I'm Tammy Maddox, Chief Deputy Clerk in Lincoln County. Disclaimer, I drove her into it. I'm Ron Burrows. I currently serve as the Lincoln County Clerk in county. Prior to, I served for 8 years as the county clerk.
I'm Bobby Shearer. I'm the Director of the Elections Bureau at the Secretary of State's Office.
I'm Mary Stone, Deputy Secretary of State, representing the Secretary.
I'm Liz Oliver, County Clerk here in Berlin.
Paul Stokes, citizen from United Voters in New Mexico, Legal Women Voters, and a number of other good government organizations.
Steve Allen, Director of Common Cause New Mexico.
My name is Nate Gentry. I'm State Representative, represent House District 30, which is Albuquerque Uptown.
I'm Evelyn Carrillo, and I'm from the Pueblo of Laguna. I am an advisory board member to the Native American Voters Alliance.
I'm Carrie Latour. I'm a student at New Mexico State University.
I'm Gail Trinke, a member of the League of Women Voters in Central New Mexico.
I'm David Odegaard. I'm a third-year law student at the University of New Mexico.
I'm Antoinette Cedillo-Lopez. I teach at the Law School at the University of New Mexico.
Good morning. I'm Paul Kinsel. I'm here in my individual capacity, but I'm also General Counsel to the Republican Party of the state of Louisiana.
I'm Gloria Taradash, and I'm a panel member.
I'm David Smoke, Chairman of the Oklahoma Commercial and a voter.
And you know, there's really, what I'm really excited, one thing I'm really excited about with this panel is this is a great group of people, a diverse group of people, and a really smart group of people. So I feel like it's really, you know, challenging above the intro to 200 level sort of kind of thing. So I'm very excited about everybody's opinion and how their perspectives are going to add to our overall understanding of this policy issue.